Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar about change. I think this is one thing we can all agree on, that what we see left and right is change, and the pace of change is accelerating. And unlike our typical scenario, our typical webinars where we talk about valuations, M&A trends, we wanted to change the theme a little bit and talk a bit more about how to best adapt essentially to what's changing and what's the best position to be in. Mm, we don't have a thesis for everyone, but we try to build a framework that you can take and use in your business or your investments and figure out if it works for you or not. We talk to a lot of founders, investors every day, and we try to see what works and generalize it. So that's how we came up with our ADAPT framework. I'm Marcin Majewski. I'm the founder of Aventis Advisors, and I'm here with Filip.
Hi, nice to see you all.
And we will walk you through our ADAPT framework. So maybe before we dive in, a few words why we thought it's important to talk about it and diverge a little bit from our typical themes. These are special times. I mean, we feel it, we see it in our everyday life. We see opportunity, and we see that if you don't move fast, someone will take it. And we'd rather you be the ones who take these opportunities as our followers, readers of our content, our newsletters, than other people. So we're here to inspire, I hope, and I hope this next 45 minutes or so will be also fun. In these times of change, I mean, we looked at evolution and Darwin's theories of the survival of the fittest. And what we thought is necessary for survival and as a skill, as a prerequisite right now, is being adaptable. Therefore, the adapt framework we will introduce soon. But why would you may put any effort into becoming more adaptable? And there are a lot of advantages to it. Not least being that you are more likely to be better off financially, but also helps with reducing stress, better health, and better enjoyment of life. So I think on multiple levels, it's great to apply these principles. So anyway, so let's dive in and we'll walk you through. Yes. So first things first, yes, maybe one thing I did not mention, we're focusing on software firms, but this is equally important, I think, to any business really. It's just software firms seem to be the most exposed compared to other industries, just because the technologies that are right now available are facilitating creating software the best, which does not mean that in 2 years' time, builders will not be as exposed, or lab professionals, or engineers of any sort. So this is just the tip of the iceberg, and it turns out that software goes first. And what we've been seeing in valuations is that there is widespread consensus that either the growth is not going to be there in software, or that it will take longer, or at worst, it will not materialize as people anticipated. And this is reflected in valuations. And here we can see the last year how valuations diverged between the broader tech sector over the course of the last 12 months versus our curated SaaS index. So we can see here that Nasdaq went up 36% and software dropped 25%. So the gap is really 50%. So it's quite spectacular, and shows the power of the new technologies. Is it justified? Should you write off SaaS companies? And that's why we're having this conversation, so that you're not the one written off. And we're firm believers that there is potential, and that any company can adapt and ride this wave of innovation. So I don't know, Filip, you have something to add what we're seeing here?
Yeah, I think at the same time as we're looking at traditional software companies declining and losing value, there are just as many new companies coming up which are growing revenue really rapidly. Like you can see now companies which go from 0 to 10, 100 million in a fraction of a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so kind of what's here reflected among mature companies is that they're maybe not adapting as fast as they should, but at the same time, a whole bunch of new companies appear who capture the market, who grow in value. So if you have a smaller company or if you have a like even established business, it's a question of adaptation. As Marcin said, we're adapting ourselves every day. We're not in software business. We have to be in tech and AI business, and we see how big of a change that is. So even in this webinar, we're adapting from just showing regular revenue multiples to something different because it doesn't work like that anymore. Yeah, and it's not like you can slap a multiple on revenue and get a valuation for a software business. You need to think about AI a lot. But at the same time, as there are so many winners, there's a lot of change. Those winners can become losers with some of the new releases by big company, but competition. So as Marcin said, it's a very exciting time to be in, but also very dangerous. So we're gonna kind of help you frame your thinking and make better decisions for a business or for investment. So what
So
does yeah.
yes. So the guru of survival, Bear Grylls, is here to help us adapt, and let's unfold what we mean
We're
by
thrown in
our
the middle of an island, like Bear Grylls
yes.
right now, so you have to come up with stuff. Yes, so what is the framework? Marcin, you want to introduce?
Yes, let's go one by one. So first step to a successful adaptation is that you analyze your environment and you understand what's happening. And it's a rhetorical question. Are you actually at risk? Because any business is at risk. But you really should understand how exposed you are and what you can build on to defend yourself. And if it's not defensible, you should understand also what you can do. So we'll walk you through how you can analyze and what to focus on in order to get to a better answer. Then the second point we'd like to raise is that you need to be divergent to some extent. I mean, in a world where code is a commodity and it's on demand, like it's a utility essentially. Eventually, it will become a utility. There has to be some other way to differentiate yourself. And so you cannot just copy functionalities and build more in order to ensure the survival of the business. So you have to build something different. And the best way probably is to understand your customer better. and serve their needs better. So we'll walk you through how we see the potential to diverge. So the third point is to amplify. So you cannot go it alone. You need a team and you need to find outside support also. So you need to sell the vision internally, change how people work. You have to sell it to customers. You have to raise money or sell the business. But in all cases, you need to get the message across. So that's why we use the word amplify in the sense of communication. The fourth point is price, or actually how you deliver value, because it's changing as the business models change. You cannot rely on the same way of pricing. So we will discuss how the pricing of software and AI is changing and morphing into something that we haven't seen before in the technology space. And last thing is time. I mean, we all live on some kind of timeline. Businesses, investors, professional careers, retirement, succession. Everyone has a timeline. So we want to discuss about that and help you make the right call, whether it's time to sell, it's time to grow, it's time to optimize for cash flow. So that's the framework. We can dive into analyze. So maybe Filip, you take this one.
Yeah, so the first one is really analyze to start thinking about what is the risk of AI to your business. And I would say that it's usually larger than most people think, just because we cannot predict of what's going to happen next. And I think we all have seen this over the past couple of years when ChatGPT first was released, that, oh, it writes some copy, some text, but it's not great. Yeah. And then suddenly in a year time, it writes very good text. Same with coding. It writes some code. It's not good. In a year's time, it's suddenly good. So some of the risks here are just something we don't know yet. But how we look at this now, and we prefer to use this framework, which was originally created by SaaS Capital. So they assess companies on AI risk across three different dimensions. Yes, the first one is system of record. So basically, if you're thinking about, okay, which software types are going to be cut first, yeah, and which are going to be substituted by AI, by cloud cowork, is probably something where there's no data. There's no data inside, and it's not really mission critical for your business. So a software tool that takes data from one place, changes it, I don't know, puts it out to some another place. So you don't really store anything valuable there. So if you cut it off or automate this process with AI, then the software becomes unnecessary. And this is kind of different from something which is a strategic system of record, mission critical system of record. So some advanced ERP systems, maybe accounting software where all the data for financial transactions is stored. So something which is usually legally required or just necessary for your business. So the question here that founders need to ask themselves is, does this product on the ground truth of a business process? And kind of an easier question is, what would happen if the software suddenly stops working? Yeah. So if you think about something, manufacturing automation systems or POS software in retail, yeah, then just no revenue for the business. So it's super important. Something which is, used in marketing to generate advertising, yeah, maybe less important. Maybe it's only important for a marketing agency. So that's the first point, how you can analyze it. And the second one is a non-software component. So when in the past everybody liked software and SaaS revenues the most, we're seeing now that some extra revenue streams like services or data resale or anything else which is not just pure code becomes more valuable, and it becomes even more valuable in combination. Yeah, so if it's just pure software, it's input, process, output, and nothing more, then you can substitute it quite fast. There is nothing proprietary in that. While at the same time, if you have some proprietary data, proprietary algorithms, workflows, something that is not in AI for now, not in GPT, not in Claude, they cannot recreate it just because they don't have the industry or vertical knowledge, for example, then it becomes much more valuable. And here's the 4 points is if you have some own proprietary real-time data, for example. So not only data, for example, from stock market for financial software, which is easily obtainable directly from data providers, from stock exchanges, but some custom proprietary data sets, something that only you collect. Yes, that would be the difference. And the third one is user and usage. So how senior is your user? How serious are the decisions? So if a CEO of a company looks in your software product every day to check something, the performance, the results, how the business is going, and if those are $1 million transactions, and it's a bit less likely to be replicated or substituted by AI, as opposed to something which is just smaller tools, lower stakes, solo contributors who are today using the software, tomorrow they're experimenting in Claude, the next day there's a new AI native company coming up, so you kind of can change the software tools quite easily. And here I think it also captures a bit of organizational inertia. So if it's a tool for C-level, big corporations, big deals, it's just gonna take longer time for AI to disrupt this because those are bureaucratic organizations, long processes, long sales cycles, approvals, regulations, and so on and so forth. So when you analyze your company, you just average out those scores and see on a scale of 1 to 4 if you're at risk or resilient. I was highly encouraged to do this part maybe without the AI, because AI has a tendency to be very optimistic and say that you're the best and you're not going to be disrupted. So taking a very fair look and analysis is where you should start. Like in our view, in our experience, most companies probably gonna be ending up at around 1 or 2, especially if you're focused on small businesses or if you're in marketing, sales landscapes, then you're gonna be getting 1 or 2s everywhere. Yeah, like the 4s are for some complicated enterprise software. Marcin, any extra thought?
I think it would be interesting to show our examples.
Yes. Yeah, so the examples here are 2 companies, JFrog and Upland Software. So JFrog is a company which is a supply chain software, but for software companies. So that's kind of a warehouse for all your software tools, MCPs, and so on and so forth. And they're a beneficiary from AI, and actually they're quite a complicated company to understand for a person with a non-technical background, and I think that works for them quite well. So they're a necessary tool for this modernization and automation with the AI that we see. While at the same time, another company is also in software tools, but those are much smaller software tools, rather pieces of code and just something that GPT Cloud Code has been trained on, so which is not necessary for operations, which doesn't have a big non-software component used at an individual developer level who just need, a library or a piece of code to implement in their code. So this is very highly destructible from AI, and we can see this from the annual returns on both of the companies.
So this is quite interesting because the target market is software developers.
Yeah.
So the same trends affect both companies, but the impact on their business is completely different. One completely replaceable, and the other becoming more and more entrenched and prominent. So there's hope, but you really need to be honest about where you are and how to steer the organization to move on these three dimensions to a place that is more secure. Anyway, so once you know where you're at, you know the reality, you can move on to to building something new. Uh, and here we have our three ideas for how to diverge and not to get stuck competing with everybody. And mainly Anthropic, I think, which ships at
Yeah.
such a speed that it can deliver anything pretty much these days. I mean, obviously, it might be not scalable, might be not secure, but I think it's just a matter of time until they crack it. So anyway, so I think the first way to deal with this commoditization essentially of code and software is to specialize and to go deep, understand a specific niche your clients work in, and solve their specific problems where one size fits all generic tools will not fit. Once you get the intimacy, once you solve somebody's pain points and they get used to your product, I think it's much less likely that you might lose that client. So this is probably, and it's been for quite a while, the safest way to build sustainable products. So that's it, I guess, on
I think
specialization.
what we're seeing on the market also is that interest in vertical software is still out there. There's a lot of buyers, a lot of roll-ups which have this
Yeah.
hypothesis, and I think kind of their hypothesis is least changed, so they still believe in this. So if you're thinking about the exit or M&A, now in this segment of software, probably this the stock markets changes and drops are kind of having the least effect on investor sentiment.
Yes, yes, we haven't seen any repricing really in this space. So this is encouraging for anyone who's already in the space. Okay, another way is hyper personalization, which is another level or another. I mean, it's actually turning your business a bit around into AI native software where you don't interact with a fixed, I don't know, table, dashboard, workflow, but you try to build other interfaces that are more custom and more natural or using natural language processing. So something that people can feel is their own. They don't need to adapt their way of thinking, doing things to the software, but the software adapts to them. So it might be vague, but I think it's the direction where software should be going. Because if ChatGPT knows me better than my mom, I think my software should also. So I think that's the way forward.
Yeah, I think with how easy it became to generate UI, the value of UI really declines a lot. And it's not to say that there is no value in it. It still requires some thought, but it's just so individual that I can see a future where the database behind the CRM is the same, but one person has a Kanban board, another has a chatbot, and someone else has, directly a table. Yeah, so everyone can work with that in their own manner.
Yeah. And last but not least, we were inspired by Palantir and their concept of forward deployed engineers, which is an idea that their consultants work very tightly within their client teams to build solutions within the organizations they serve. And we think that this approach can be replicated. So, for instance, a marketing software company can converge with a marketing agency in order to get better customer intimacy and lock in and become their go-to person for anything AI. Yeah. So we think this is the way to improve defensibility within software businesses, and we've seen companies coming up with these ideas. We've seen something we have not seen before, that software companies are really looking to acquire IT services companies or services companies in general in order to build this deeper customer integration and prolong essentially or extend their client relationship. So I think this is a very strong way to build a moat against the wave of AI tools proliferating. Because why would your customer try to vibe code something and they can go to you and have you vibe code stuff for them, and you have all the data already, their data already. You have better understanding of processes. So I think this could be a great added value and added revenue, extra revenue stream for software companies. So to wrap up this section, I think you need to be able to tell what really is worth building right now, because anything can be built. And it's virtually gonna become free in the near future. But AI cannot make the call what to build. AI has to have the human skills. I mean, cannot have. So you have to have, as a founder, as a business owner, the human skills to go out there, talk to people, understand them, understand their pain points, and try to solve them. Because this is one thing that I don't think AI is gonna be that good for quite some time.
Yeah, I think those are all around the same topic, really. Personalization, specialization, forward
Yeah.
deployment. So you kind of go into your customer with your know-how and help them. Amplify. Yeah, so here we started thinking about amplification of the AI message. So first externally, and it is a bit of a game theory that you really have to be AI first because everyone else is. And I don't think it took us a lot of time to find those screenshots that everyone is AI. I think every major software company positions themselves as AI first those days. And it's probably you need to move first with the marketing and then come up with a solution later. Yeah, this is fine. This is what we're seeing. All of those companies are positioning as AI now. I'm sure it's only a tiny fraction of their whole revenue for all those major companies such as Salesforce, for example. But they're kind of moving there in terms of marketing. So if you're not AI and your competitor is AI first, it's a problem. Marcin, I want to talk a bit about internal
Yes.
unification.
So we spotted that the winds of change a few years back, and being a founder myself, I realized that we have to change. And I've been pushing our AI agenda for the past probably 3 years or so, despite some skepticism. Mm, but I think it starts with the founder of the board, mm, and decision and commitment really on embarking on this AI journey. It's not mandatory. I don't think every company needs to change, obviously. Um, but it's very unlikely that those that don't change will survive. Um, so you have to, as leadership essentially of companies, you have to focus on convincing your team and building a roadmap or vision, where AI is taking you, and track progress, because obviously you get what you measure. So in this way, you should have good chances of coalescing all the people within your organization to commit to building an essentially new technology stack. But I mean, we're seeing resistance. We understand the resistance, and no one has to do it. To be honest, I mean, it's obviously a viable way to continue as is. Just you need to understand the trade-off. But for some businesses, for sure, I mean, it's not necessary. And external, I mean, you can build on once you have the internal alignment, you can build on that. Customer communication, I mean, you have to, because everyone is now an AI company. So you sound odd if you don't emphasize AI in your communication, even if it's superficial. Um, but at the same time, I mean, if you want to get resources, recruit people, I think you have to communicate that, and also there has to be a grain of truth to it. And in many cases, there isn't that much. And another point that if you're planning to or considering raising money or even selling a business, it's super important to delineate the AI revenue and use it as a KPI that you track. Because if you cannot tell AI from non-AI revenue, it's very hard, to track and convince people of the success of your AI strategy. And lastly, I mean, it's a small world, actually, the AI space right now. And we find that sharing your insights is very helpful, and achievements in AI, in attracting talent, in attracting attention. We've seen many companies go from 0 to 1 million or a few $1 million over a few social media accounts and just building something original. So I think it's a great idea to share freely, to become part of the thought leadership trend that is in the AI space. So I think it's a different world where information is free. So if you can curate your information, structure it, and share it, I think it's a great value add to society, to the community. And it's kind of back to the romantic days of software development that I remember from the 90s, that I think that the world got much closer and much more intertwined again. So anything to add from your angle?
I think for internal amplification, I would know that it's really important. And what we see is that the biggest companies have this, and it's kind of funny that Meta has a token leaderboard, or like
Yeah.
some consultancy tracks the how many times you log into Claude. But it also shows a trend that it's super important, and the largest, most bureaucratic organizations are really pushing that. So there is not much excuse of not pushing it in a smaller company.
Yeah.
Price. Yeah, so we looked at the pricing and really evolution of SaaS pricing, and we think that's where one of the biggest change in business models of software is going to happen. But at the same time, it has always been changing for the past, I don't know, 50 years. Yeah, so it's nothing new. Here we tracked something from 2000. It all started in 2000, where it was perpetual licenses and software was sold on a CD, and you bought a new version, I don't know, a year or 2 years after, and installed it on your desktop. So that's where it started. Then Salesforce really started with the cloud offering, subscription, SaaS. Then the whole subscription ecosystem developed, and kind of Adobe pivoted to the cloud in around 2012. So they introduced tiered pricing, and just generally this subscription pricing was overcoming an evolution. There was premium, multi-year deals, volume discounts. So there's a whole industry around pricing of software and pricing of SaaS, and how that is optimized. Right now, what we're seeing with AI is that it changes to a bit of a hybrid way, where most companies in AI are now having a subscription still, just because it's such a great model. It has been such a great model historically, and everyone in software is now kind of trained that you need to have a subscription, recurring revenue. There is upsell, downsell, churn rate, and so on. It's so easy to track. But what we're seeing is that it's gonna be moving slowly to usage-based. Nowadays, we have a $20 subscription for ChatGPT or Claude, and there is a lot of usage-based revenue on top of it for extra usage, for API calls, and so on and so forth. And there is really no need to have a subscription or per seat pricing, just because you can do it from one single account if you set up the automations properly. So where we see this is gonna go is to usage-based pricing, where the user pays for tokens, for credits, minutes, compute, or something which will kind of contribute and correlate with actual usage. Right now, the actual usage was correlated a lot with the number of users. So if you have 100 sales reps and they have a CRM, they probably gonna use it on average some amount of time, and you can calculate based on that. So in an agentic world where you can send the data via MCP, you can instruct Claude to do operations directly, then this becomes less relevant. And I think there have been some first attempts at that. We've heard of companies like ServiceNow who introduce kind of a tolls or limits on how much AI can interact with the data inside the software. So we're seeing the companies are moving towards that, and I think over the next years it's going to be a transition, like it was from perpetual to subscription. Yeah, it took a long time, but that's definitely where the industry is going to be moving on. Marcin? You've seen the perpetual, probably more than me, the transition.
I've seen it, and I mean, it resembles what's happening right now, probably resembles the migration from on-prem and perpetual licenses to cloud and subscriptions. It's probably gonna take a while, and it's gonna be painful probably at first, because also the tokens you sell right now, you have to subsidize them. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
AI companies subsidize them. So it's probably hard to compete also with companies selling tokens. But in the long run, I mean, if you follow our adapt framework and the diverge part, I think you will come up with a way to get remunerated for the value you provide fairly. And it's natural. I mean, it's not gonna be subscriptions. I think it's quite obvious because you're addressing a completely different need. And the good thing is, actually, what we are seeing is that you're not trying to get a chunk of the software budget or IT services budget. But if you solve somebody's business problem, or someone can outsource a whole business process to you, you're all of a sudden targeting a completely different revenue stream. Because if you solve, for instance, customer care, you're not only competing with other, or you're challenging the budget for the customer care department, but you're essentially targeting the budget for the whole team and the payroll, and you're augmenting it, obviously. Mm, but probably the client needs fewer people, and therefore will be able to shift part of the payroll budget to your product or service. So we're actually quite optimistic for the sector as a whole that it will emerge. Like always, technology has always emerged a winner of any change. Um, it's just we don't know who will be the winner because there are so many moving parts right now
Yeah.
that it's so hard to predict. I mean, it might be that Anthropic like takes over the world and dominates every industry. Who knows? Or it may be hundreds of Anthropics and different companies, or it may be that no, LLMs and intelligence will be a utility, kind of worthless, and the world will belong to small, nimble software companies that or software slash IT services
Yeah.
companies. Mm, but I think what is most important is the pie is bound to grow. That we as a whole, as a society, as the economy, we will share. So and more will accrue of that pie to those who deliver more value. I mean, it's quite natural. Um, and and pricing is a way to address this and essentially allocate this. So it's bound to change. We'll see how. We don't have all the answers, but it's something to be mindful of and open of because people are innovating and and if you are open to that, I think you can capture a lot of value. So I think you can go to the last point about time. And obviously time is not infinite. We all have finite timelines. Uh, AI is moving fast, but it doesn't mean it's moving the same for every and the same clip for all companies. Um, so I think with that in mind, we see a few diverging paths. If you are exposed to AI, you really need to decide very quickly. So if you score low on the risk scores, you have really two options. One is basically to sell while the business holds some value, and you let someone optimize it, the new owner, optimize it or change it with AI. Or option B, and viable for many companies, is just to reduce the spend and R&D and harvest whatever is left in that business. And many businesses are immune. I mean, on-prem vertical software, who would bother to change that? I mean, people have other priorities right now. So many companies have a lot of runway thanks to low churn. So completely viable. But in any case, I mean, it's important to um, to understand where you are and adapt to it. Now, if you feel like you want to play this game of AI and build, we believe that continuing and scaling is the winning strategy. Although, I mean, exit and milking is obviously viable. The world is waiting for companies that I know how to use AI and want to disrupt themselves essentially, and serve the clients in a new way. So definitely, I mean, every company needs an AI story for sure. Every company needs to adapt and build their AI capabilities. And I think, I mean, it's all growth for companies that are successful in that regard. Mm. And I think that's what we can conclude with. Thank you for your attention today. I hope this is useful. And if you are interested in exploring any M&A options, or in general talk about how your business is gonna continue in this new reality, happy to chat. So you can reach out through our contact form or LinkedIn or email. Thank you for your attention today, and good luck with adapting to the new reality.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye bye.
Thank